Hi, this video is to show getting a partial row at the bottom of your quilt, that last row, when you are using 4-point placement. When you're using center placement, it's easy because you have the partial diamonds feature. With the 4-point placement, you don't have that partial row choice. This method would work with the center placement, but certainly having those diamonds are easier. So this example is a design that was created in basic mode, and there are 5 zones. We've just completed zone 4. We've finished stitching it out, and we've pulled the bobbin, so we're ready to tap on finish zone. And we're going to get our mark there toward the lower left. We're just doing the one mark in this example. Okay, so now we have that placement mark. So we know that zone 5 is going to be bigger than what we need to stitch out. So we're going to measure from where we made that mark for placing zone 5. We're going to measure from there down to where we need the lowest stitches to hit. A suggestion would be to round up to the nearest full or half inch. That just makes it easier in your measuring, but you don't have to do that. So whatever this amount is, we're going to go back into the Panto Stacker screen and get that amount. So this our pattern height is 8.5 inches, and we want to be careful that whatever amount we give for how much needs to show, that there's no gap that's going to show along that bottom edge. We want to have enough that gets covered, so no gaps. So we're going to tap on the X, and for this example we're saying that we need 5 inches of it. So we are going to go ahead and say we need 1 row, and we're going to need the total height of that row to be 8.5, because we want to maintain what that pattern height is. And so pattern height, we're going to key that in and enter that amount, 8.5. So this is the exact same design. It's just 1 row that we've been quilting. The 5 patterns are there. The pattern width has stayed the same. The heart selection is the same. We do want to see our grid lines, so we're going to tap on options. Show grid is checked. We're going to say OK. When we tap on the screen, our grid lines show up representing 1 square inch. And we're going to tap on all so that it's selected and in dark blue. So we need 5 inches of this design. So what we're going to do is move it down. So we're going to tap on move. These arrows are currently showing gray, meaning they're not active. We need them to be active, so we're going to tap on fit until that top selection is selected. We're going to unselect that star. We don't want any vertical wrapping. That's what that star is for. And now we're going to start moving it down. I'm going to change it to small for a little more accuracy. So I need to see 3.5 inches. And I want to point something out. This is 8.5, so you get the 8 full blocks there, but the ½ inch is divided up with a 1/4 inch at the top and a 1/4 inch at the bottom. If this had been 9.5, then you have that odd number of 9. So it would take, if it were 9.5, for example, then it takes that 1.5 and creates a 3/4 inch amount at the top and the bottom. So just want to point that out so you're aware of how the grid works. But we have 8.5, so we know that this is a 1/4 inch, that's a 1/4 inch. We need 5 inches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this plus this little bit at the bottom is probably pretty close to 5. And so 8.5 minus 5 gives us 3.5. So 1, 2, 3, and that's a 1/4, and that's probably a 1/4. So we have 3.5 inches, and that's the number we need to remember, is 3.5. So now we're ready to sew in zones. And we're going to go ahead and optimize, remove all, no, okay. And you can see we're going to get those straight line stitches with no jump stitches there. So say, okay. So we need to go to where we had marked where when zone 4 ended, and we had made the mark for zone 5. So we need to go to that mark, and that 3.5 inches we need to measure up from that mark. So we need to move our needle 3.5 inches above that mark, and with our needle over that adjusted mark, tap on A. And your needle will be up in the stitching at that point. You may need to unroll your quilt a little bit, but this area is actually where stitching is, but QCT still considers this a full zone even though this is blank. So that's why you're having to measure like you are. And with this locked, then you're going to get that whatever your total width is, or if you're manually doing the other corner, you can unselect that. But now you are ready to, well, if you want to trace, that might be wise. So tap on trace and make sure this is nesting into the row above it like you want. If you need to tweak it a little bit higher up or a little further down, you'll need to go back into Panto Stacker screen, move it as you need, and then come back in here, and then you'll have to replace your zone. So you'll have a new amount that you will measure up above from where you had marked for this zone. So get your zone replaced, and now you're ready to pull, bobbin, and sew. What if you needed 2 rows? You needed 1 row and a partial row to finish out. So it's a little trickier, so I want to show you that. So we're going to go back here, and we're going to go back to our original pattern, open it as a pantograph. Okay, so we can see that our pattern height is 8.5, so 2 of that would be 17. And we're going to change this to 2 rows. So at this point, we do need to nest, and we need to nest it pretty close to how the earlier zones were nested. So we need to tap on alternate and get this top row selected so that we can move it. And again, we need to have the top fit selected so these vertical arrows are active, and then we need to move it down. And then once you have it pretty close to how all the other rows have been nested together, then tap on all so that they're both selected. And in this example, we'll just say again we need let's see, we had said 5 before. Let's just say we need 10 this time. So 17 minus 10. We need to take that vertical wrapping off. So we need 7 inches to be showing blank above. And again, since we have 17, there's a 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here. There's 16 full block inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then that's half and that's half. So that gives us our 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that half and that half gives us our 7. So now we have our 10 inches that we need to stitch and our 7 inches that are blank, which gives us that total height of 17. So the 7 is what we need to remember. So we come over here and sew in zones, and then you would optimize, remove all, no, okay. And at this point, you're going to go to wherever your point was that you had marked for your last zone, and you're going to measure up 7 inches. So this may or may not mess you up with whatever design, because that may make your zone be too big. So if that's the case, then there is another method. So we're going to go back, and I'm going to reselect the pattern. Okay, so we know that the row height was 7. Of course, the pattern height kind of exceeded it because of it being nested. So probably if we give this a 14, we give that a 14, and we know we need 2 rows, then it's changed the pattern height to 7. And if we start to grow it, let's take that wrap off. We're exceeding our lines there, and changing the fit isn't going to help. So let's bump this up a little bit more. You kind of have to play around a little bit. And this is 8 1/4, so we're still not good here. So I'm just bumping it up a little bit as I go. So let's see. We still need this to be 8.5. Let's see if we can change that. It's probably a little tighter than what it was. So maybe if we were to say 15.25. We've still got our 8.5. So this is probably pretty close. We could take more time and tweak it more, but that's how you could not have such a large total height. You have to kind of back into it a little bit, but just so that you're going to try to stay within your safe area. So at this point you would have all selected, and then move and come up to the top fit selection and start shifting it down for however many inches you needed. So you would count however many inches you needed, and then whatever this amount is. And so at this point we had changed it to 15 1/4, which means you have 1/2 an inch plus 1/2 a quarter of an inch here and down below. So keep that in mind when you are taking this measurement, and then again you would sew in zones and optimize and measure up from your where you had marked placement for the last zone. You would measure up by that amount. Alright, so what if you were in easy mode? We're going to select the pattern here. Okay, in easy mode we don't have the vertical arrows, so what we have to do is go from here into basic mode. So what we will need is the 4 for the patterns across. We need to keep this pattern width and the pattern height of 9.5. So those are the numbers that we'll need. The total width and total height won't change when we change this to basic mode, but we will need these numbers. So take a picture, write them down, and we do have the middle heart selection, so we'll need to remember that. So now, and before I leave this screen, you may want to go into your magnifying glass and blow it up, and take a picture just to see how does the one row nest into the row above it, because you may need that when you get further along. So we're going to say basic mode here, and we need to select the pattern, which was My Creative Stitches, the Busy Bees, and we're just going to use one row here. So we'll say one row. We know we need 4 patterns, and we know that the pattern width needs to be, I'm going to go ahead and select that middle heart, so 12.649, and the pattern height needs to be 9.5. And so we're going to make that total height be the same as the pattern height, so 9.5. So this is one row exactly of the original design. And then depending on what amount of inches that we need of this design. We would tap on Move, tap on Fit so that the top selection is selected. Take off the vertical wrap, so deselect that star, and then move it down for however many inches that you need. So here it's 9.5, so we have the one odd number extra because we have the eight full inches represented. So we have a 1/2 inch plus a 1/2 of the 1/2 inch. So literally there's 1.5 inch here that gets divided between this top and bottom row. So that's 3/4 inch. So if we needed this amount, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3/4 inch, then we would remember 2 and 3/4 when we go to sew in zones. Optimize, remove all, no, okay. So at this point we would go to where we had marked our last zone, our second to last zone. We would measure up 2 and 3/4 inch, which gets away from the 1/2 inch, but 2 and 3/4 inch, tap on A and lock the width if you don't want to manually set the other side. Then tap on Trace, make sure it's nesting with the row above it like you want, and again go back if you need to adjust, and then you'll have to come back and reset. Otherwise you're ready to pull bobbin and sew. Okay, so now we're going to go into Power Panto. We're going to select our pattern, and I didn't mean to click. I'm going to select Read Panto, and I've used a very simple pattern. I know this probably wouldn't typically be the case, but hopefully by using a very simple one, you may be able to follow this with your design, or you may not be. So in this design, we see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 trees. So we know that we need 6 patterns across, because in Power Panto you don't get the number of patterns across, so we were able to count, and we know that the pattern height is 8.333. So you'll need to write that down, take a picture, and you will probably want to go into your magnifying glass and magnify it and just take a picture to see how the nesting is, because you'll need to follow that. So at this point, with the knowledge that we need 6 trees across at 8.333 height, we're going to go into basic mode, and our width and height will stay the same there. So we're going to go ahead and change this height to 8.333 for one row. And we're going to select our pattern, and we know we need 6 of them, but we know that we need a partial tree on each end. So what we have to do is we're going to need to move, and we're going to move it horizontally. See, we might need to get tiny. And if you were creating 2 rows, you would need to make sure they were both selected as you're doing the moving. And this is probably really close because we know we have that height. We know that we have that 8.333. So then you would put your fit on that top selection and move it down, take that wrap off, and however many inches that you need of this. So you have 0.333, so this is half of 0.333. So that's a little tricky to deal with, but it's kind of a very, very small amount, so you should be fine to figure it out. But if you needed, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches, then you're ready to sew in zones, and Again, you'll optimize, remove all, no, okay, and then you will go to your spot, and then you will measure up that amount of blank area from the screen that you were just in. Move your needle over that point and tap on A, and you're ready to pull, bobbin, and sew. So power panto is a very tricky one, especially if you have a intricate design and a big quilt. It could get really hard, but maybe you can do it if you're really wanting to. So hope you found this video helpful.